Matt, you stood up to Kevin McCarthy, to the GOP establishment several times, is an understatement. And we watched for that week or so, and we were laughing the whole time. I am stoked that you're here because I think what you did was awesome. But I'm curious to learn about the details. So I heard about this shadow document. Apparently you and several others cut some kind of deal or finally got McCarthy to cave in and give you guys something. Then we heard there's going to be a floor vote to abolish the IRS. Just tell us what's going on, because we're getting it all secondhand.
Look, we believed that Washington was broken. The normal system of selecting leadership in both parties is based on the redistribution of lobbyist and special interest money. Like, if you want to be the leader of your party, you basically have to raise and redistribute north of $100 million. And Kevin McCarthy was so good at that, he raised and distributed about $500 million over the course of the last election cycle. And so it creates a covenant that's not really built on trust or merit or vision, but trading money for political support. And we wanted to send a shock to that DC cartel system and to say, no, guess what? There's going to have to be a different way you get there. And the concessions we sought principally fell into like three buckets. Policy, we wanted specific bills coming to the floor. We wanted commitments on when they would come to the floor. We wanted adherence to specific spending levels with a budget resolution. And the organizing principle of our policy goals was really to make sure that we would never again get an omnibus bill like we had to vote on. That's just a total joke of a way of governing. Like, how can we sit here and honestly say that bills that are thousands of pages long, that spend $1.7 trillion, and that you get 48 hours before having to cast a vote is really legislating? It's not. It devalues each individual member, and it's insulting to our constituents to suggest that we even know what the hell we're doing when that's the way we run the railroad. So we had policy concessions. Second was procedure. Having those 72 hours to read the bill, having open amendments. Like, the youngest member of Congress was not yet born the last time the appropriations process went through regular order. And that just means like we should vote on the defense stuff separately and then vote on like the education stuff and then the health and human services stuff. And that it doesn't just all get mushed together so somebody can vote for a bunch of bullshit that you wouldn't otherwise approve and then say, well, I had to vote for it to fund our troops. Right? That's the game. That's what the cartel builds, and lobbyists make $1 gazillion off of that. The final leg of the stool is personnel. Like, in order to enforce the deal that we got, we wanted specific people on specific committees in specific leadership posts. And what's the saying? You rob the banks because that's where the money's at. Well, we wanted far more representation on the Appropriations Committee because that's where the money is. And a lot of Americans don't know what the Rules Committee is or why that's important, but it totally governs what we get to vote on and what we don't get to vote on. And so we demanded specific people and specific representation on the Rules Committee. I think we're going to be in a lot stronger position as a result. Like, the critique, I heard a few critiques during this process. One is like, this was chaos. You showed the country, how rough and tumble this is. And, you should have done this behind closed doors. To hell with that, man. Behind closed doors is where the American people have been getting screwed. And so I wanted to level my complaint on the House floor specifically. I wanted to cite the people that I was objecting to and their ascension to leadership. And so that didn't mind. And then it's like, oh no, you burned your whole first week. There are days in Congress where the only thing we vote on is the renaming of one post office. There are days in Congress where the only thing we vote on are the rules that govern the next vote. And we take 6 weeks off every year for summer vacation where we do absolutely nothing. So to take 4 days to say, this is the policy, this is the procedure, this is the personnel that is going to drive the Republican team going forward seems like the best use of time since I've been there. So that was the general construct.
I mean, that's amazing. Why was it only 20 members of Congress willing to stand up?
Well, I mean, first of all, the frontline members, even the frontline, and when I say the frontline members, I mean members that are in districts that are 51-49, maybe even districts that Joe Biden won by a substantial portion, right? They had a loyalty to Kevin and an argument that was something like this. Well, Matt, if a guy goes out there and spends 4 years taking money from the lobbyists and giving that money to us, and then in the last minute you knife that person, no one will ever agree to be the valet for those people ever again. And we need that delivery system of resources. And so it's not about how much we like or don't like McCarthy. It's about a system that we rely on to resource our campaigns. And I mean, that's a pretty astonishing argument, but it at least has a logical construct. And then, there are people who fear disrupting the system. They think, look, I got here to Congress. I've got a staff that tells me I'm always losing weight and that my jokes are funny. I go home and I'm the big cheese at the Rotary Club. And to every extent that I can have calm waters, the better. And anything that creates turbulence, I oppose. And that's actually a pretty big swath of the Republican conference and the Democrat conference. That is how the uniparty gets to groupthink. Yeah. And I hear all this time these geriatric senators talking about the importance of these great bipartisan achievements. But so often in my life, like the greatest moments of unity have been the worst for the people. There's a shit ton of unity to pass the Patriot Act.
Yeah.
We never thought it was actually going to be used against patriots. We thought it was going to be used against, Arabs in faraway lands. There was a whole lot of unity over the Iraq War. Everybody was for that. There was a ton of unity for the COVID lockdowns. There was a ton of unity for just printing money and sending it to people that weren't working. And so like whenever they're the bills that are like the major bills that have 90, 95% support, that's when you need to be most worried at times.